But Dominic, I said I thought Erin Blanchfield was ready for this moment. I said it after she beat Molly McCann. I've been believing she was ready for higher competition than she was getting all the way back, before the Aldrich fight. I
Mm,
felt like she had really proven that she was just farther along than what you would expect from someone of her age and relative inexperience in professional MMA. And I think this fight proved that, Dom, because she gets the second round submission, a minute 37 seconds in over Jessica Andrade. And the fight did not really go as expected, I guess. I think there was
mm,
quite a bit of surprises here. The biggest one, of course, being round one was fought entirely on the feet. And
mm-hmm.
Dominic, Erin Blanchfield won the round. She
Yeah.
won the round. It was very competitive. Don't get me wrong. Jessica Andrade landing some big old shots. Credit to Blanchfield's chin, able to eat a few of those. But she was tagging Andrade left and right. Shout out to Andrade, of course, for taking this fight on short notice. This really wasn't. Yes, I'm sure in her eyes, she looked at taking this fight as an opportunity to maybe put herself back in a position to fight the winner of Grasso Shevchenko. But I think for most people, we sort of looked at this as like kind of a not a risky fight for her, but a fight that maybe she didn't need to take. But she kind of saved this card with Taylor Santos falling out. So I want to give her credit for that. With that being said, though, Dominic, Erin Blanchfield is here. If she hadn't already arrived, she has arrived now.
Mm.
She is not only a contender, she's not only a player in this division, but Dominic, she is a future champion of this women's flyweight division. Are you with me?
I think I am. What I tell you on Friday's preview, I said I'm with you. I'm glad that you went out and said it, but I had to wait and see what happened tonight. Well, I waited. I saw, and now I'm on you, Noah. I'm on the future champion train. Listen, man, 23 years old, and you're gonna go out there and not just outstrike Jessica Andrade, not just take some of Andrade's hardest punches, but then you're gonna finish Jessica Andrade. Come on, that's three big things to have in your arsenal at that young of an age. I mean, wow, what more can you even say about Erin Blanchfield? The rise that she's had, 11-1, 5-0 now in the UFC, and I think the only loss she ever had in Invicta was against Tracy Cortez, which by no means is a bad loss. So, I mean, the future is here. We've talked about all of the great young ladies coming up in this division. Erin Blanchfield took the bull by the horns and catapulted herself over all of the other ones right now, and she's there. And Noah, not only is she there, she made sure to let everyone else know she's there in that post-fight interview. She said, "Give me the winner of Valentina and Grasso. That happens in 2 weeks." I mean, no better moment, no better way to capitalize on your big moment in your first main event than by doing that. And I know that you probably agree.
Oh, completely agree. And truthfully, when I was watching this fight, as impressed as I was with Blanchfield's stand up and her ability to compete on the feet and even win that round doing so, I still looked at that this fight was far from over, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
It's one thing to take a round. That's super impressive. Nobody expected that. But then it was like, what if this continues? What if she's unable to get these takedowns in round
Mm,
two, round three, round four? If this fight continues on the feet, she's going to have to continue to eat some of these shots from Andrade and try to continue to keep her movement. Andrade was doing a good job of landing good leg kicks, and that likely would have slowed down Blanchfield as the fight went on. But round two, Dominic, she finds her opportunity. The opening lands a beautiful takedown. And Dominic, I think it was like less than 15 seconds
yeah.
after landing the takedown. She had the choke on, didn't even have both hooks in on the ground and choked her out. I mean, it was as impressive as you get. We made note of Andrade. I think a lot of people figured Blanchfield would have an advantage here, of course, but Andrade has been very underrated in just her ability to not get put in those compromising positions on the ground throughout her career. She's constantly been the bully, pressing forward, bringing the action to her opponent. She's rarely been the nail uh, in the proverbial hammer to the nail type scenario. And the only people who'd been able to really do that, Valentina being the only one at flyweight, you look at like Joanna outstruck her for 5 rounds back when she
Mm,
was at strawweight. And like I said, I think Tisha Torres might have taken her down at one point, but Valentina, of course, was the standard for taking her down, dominating her en route to a finish. Nobody else had been able to do that, Dom. And
yeah.
now Erin Blanchfield has done it. It was impressive. It was thorough. And she called for the winner of Grasso Shevchenko. And I have no pause on giving her that shot. There is one wrench in this, though, Dom. We have to acknowledge, though, that there is one thing that stands in the way of Blanchfield getting that shot. And that is the fact that Alexa Grasso could very well win that fight next month.
Mm-hmm.
If she were to win, you have to think they're going to allow Valentina to run it back immediately. You know my thoughts on immediate rematches, but if someone were to deserve that, the resume of Shevchenko, her
Oh,
reign being as long as it's been,
yeah.
I mean, that sort of
Yeah.
might be one of those that I'd be like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
So I think Blanchfield her next fight will be for the title. I believe that. But there is a question on when that will happen.
Yeah.
Because if Shevchenko wins and she does it impressively next month, I think a lot of people might expect that. No doubt, maybe late summer, early fall, something like that.
Mm.
You would see those two as the next fight. But I guess, how do you kind of agree with that sort of the direction we're going here? Blanchfield's next in line, but if Grasso were to upset Valentina, they sort of have that back. Is that, and if they were, do you think Blanchfield waits, or do you do her and Santos again?
I think the only way that Blanchfield doesn't fight for her title in her very next fight is if Grasso wins in 2 weeks. I think that Valentina, assuming she would want to stay at 125 and try to reclaim her throne, which I would imagine she would, they would run that back. And then I think we would get Santos Blanchfield. I think we really would. It's not that I even need to see it. I just think that's what would happen. But again, if Grasso wins at UFC 285, and I do believe she can, a lot of people, and of course, even the odds are going to say Valentina should win, and I have no reason to believe otherwise. But we haven't seen Valentina fight since the Taylor Santos fight, and that was the most vulnerable we've ever seen her look, outside of obviously like an Amanda Nunes matchup, which doesn't relate anything to what 125 has been for her. So I don't think it's impossible, guys. I think it could be a much more fun fight than people are expecting. But Noah, you, is as much as I agree with you on the future champion talk, there's also a caveat to me wanting to be like, is it safe for me to say it even if Valentina's still is Erin Blanchfield gonna be that one to dethrone Valentina to become that future champion? That's where I'm so much with you, and then I want to
Yeah,
pause a little bit. That's
yeah,
where I'm
I get it.
struggling right now in my head after an hour after the event ends.
I guess the way I kind of look at it, Dom, is I completely agree that as impressive of a win as that is over someone like Andrade, who's been a champion at strawweight, has competed for multiple titles, fought in 3 weight classes, knockouts in 3 weight classes. Truth of the matter is, you look at what Valentina did to Andrade. I know MMA math doesn't work like that, but just bear with me that it's pretty clear that as big of a jump as Blanchfield just went from fighting like Molly McCann and JJ Aldrich to Andrade,
Mm-hmm.
passes that test. No doubt, it's another big jump to Valentina. I mean, Valentina has separated herself from the pack so much. And yes, Taylor Santos, I thought she won that fight. That was originally who Blanchfield was going to fight here. So it's all kind of murky on,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, we haven't seen Valentina since then. Is she going to come back and look like, the best version of herself? Or is she going to maybe we start to notice a little dip? Maybe
Right.
she's
Right.
already hit her peak. I don't know. But I feel typically when you have these dominant champions, if you look through history of the UFC, most dominant champions don't just ride off into the sunset unless
Yeah.
you're GSP or Habib.
Yeah.
Most of them lose when you don't expect them to. Anderson Silva against Chris Weidman. I'm sorry, Dom. I didn't mean to
It's
hurt you
okay.
like that. Ronda Rousey
Yeah.
with Holly Somewhat when he fought Conor McGregor. These guys that had the Kamaru Usman just happened with Leon Edwards. Some people probably with Izzy and Alex Pereira.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's people who you don't expect.
Yeah.
And maybe that's troublesome for how confident I seem to be in Blanchfield, because she probably, if Valentina beats Grasso,
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine, even though she'd be a heavy favorite against Blanchfield, I I may be overconfident in the saying this, but I think the betting odds, it would be the closest probably Valentina's been with an opponent in the last 3-4 years.
I think I would agree with that.
I could be wrong on Andrade. I don't think was a huge underdog
Yeah.
against her, so it could be wrong, but maybe because of that, some people may buy into her if that time comes, and in doing so, then it would be a little expected, and then
Mm.
she might get just smashed.
Mm.
But in my opinion, Dom, I have hardly ever, if ever, been able to pick someone on their way up and been like, oh, this is the person to dethrone the long-standing champion. I didn't see it with Leon. Didn't really see it with Pereira. Of course, I wasn't watching when Rousey and Connor did it and Chris
Yeah.
Weidman. That's why I see it in her, and I'm riding with her all the way. If that fight happens, I'm going to bet on her.
Yeah.
I believe that she can be the one. And I think a lot of people thought she was like a one-trick pony a little bit, so talented in her grappling and her submission capabilities, but just didn't have much on the feet.
Yeah.
I think this answered that a little bit. Again, it's not going to be an easy fight against Valentina, but someone's eventually going to come in here. If Valentina wants to keep fighting in this weight class, eventually someone is going to dethrone her. It is going to happen.
Yeah. Phew. Oh my gosh, man. I was just looking too, just to make sure, because she's 23. She turns 24 in May. So I was just trying to see if she had any bit of room to make John's run for the record. Unfortunately not, but still probably could
Well,
become, one of the youngest.
let me say she's on pace right now to potentially become the youngest women's champion in
Mm.
UFC history. I saw a tweet right before we got on here. Rose Namajunas was 25 when she
Okay.
won her first strawweight title. So,
Okay.
that could very well be in play for her. Let me ask you one question, or make a statement and get your thoughts on it. Not only was this a big victory for Erin Blanchfield, of course, but I actually think this was a victory for the women's flyweight division,
Okay.
because I think the biggest misconception that UFC fans, that MMA fans have, is that the women's flyweight division is still weak. And
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you guys, it's not. You look now at this top group. They've arrived, a lot of these people who we had been kind of saying,
Yep.
yeah, they have potential. Well, now a lot of them are here.
They are.
Taylor Santos, Erin Blanchfield, Alexa Grasso, Manon Fior.
Yep.
Guys, Jessica Andrade, of course, is still in that mix. I understand Valentina should be and will be a big favorite over all of them. But one of these ladies, at least, is going to be a future champion. They
Yeah.
are that good.
Yeah.
We just have to be ready for that. I'm not saying they'll necessarily beat Valentina. Easier said than done.
Yeah.
But one of these ladies, at least, will be a future champion.
No, yeah.
And I think that speaks to the quality of the division at this point. You still have more on the way up. There's still some falling behind that maybe have, taken more time off. Who was it that you said Erin Blanchfield's lone losses to?
Tracy Cortez.
Tracy Cortez.
Yep. King
Who's to
Casey
say?
comes back next month
Yep.
too.
Casey O'Neill has a ton of potential. Is
Yep.
Tatiana Suarez coming back to 125?
That's what I'm hearing. That's next week, Noah. That's next week.
Dominic, I mean, obviously, they have to kind of prove it, but this division is really on it. I think it's already sort of competing with strawweight in my eyes for the premier division in women's MMA. And I don't think a lot of people give it that due.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like we've been ahead of the curve on this weight
Mhm.
class, though, like since the beginning of our podcast,
Yeah.
essentially, because that's when a lot of these women were starting to come into the UFC, and now they all are right here, man. And I'm ready for Casey to come back from injury to see how she'll look. Macy Barber's still there, Tracy Cortez, Amanda Hebos is still kind of going
Yep.
up and down. You don't know where she's going to do.
Miranda Maverick.
Miranda Maverick on the outside looking in. I mean, it's so right. This division is very healthy and built for a very long future with a lot of great talent. That's what separates this women's division from the strawweight, I believe, the biggest. And then women's bantamweight is just still kind of a mess. And we'll talk about it again a little bit later in the show. I'll tell you, it's neck and neck. I think the biggest thing with strawweight compared to flyweight, you have more long-standing veterans. I think
Mhm.
that's the biggest
Yeah.
separator. And while there's definitely still an argument for strawweight to be better than flyweight, but you could very easily say that flyweight's the best women's division in the UFC right now. Easily, you could say
It's
that.
very similar to the difference between men's lightweight and bantamweight.
Yes. Yeah.
Lightweight has the star power, but
Yeah.
you could argue bantamweight from top to bottom is
Yes.
the better division at this point. I think that's similar to
Yep.
women's strawweight versus flyweight.
100%.
Yeah. So I'm just so excited to see what's next. Obviously, I can't wait for Valentina to fight Alexa Grasso. I am not sleeping on that fight, unlike I've done in previous Valentina title defenses. I fully believe Alexa Grasso is a credible challenger. She may not quite have in my eyes, I don't really give her quite the chance I might give, of course, Erin Blanchfield or Taylor Santos if she were to fight again, or maybe even Manon Fior.
Yeah.
But she was the right girl at the right time.
Mm,
Circumstances worked out for her.
mm.
Timing, what does Dana always say? Timing is everything.
Yep.
And this could very well be her time to shine. And what a shakeup that could be, because that just throws everything out of whack. I mean, like we just talked about, all of a sudden now Blanchfield and Santos might have to fight, and then who knows where the division goes from there. So
Yeah.
it's very exciting, though. It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I was gonna say a little more, but I'm gonna hold off because in 2 weeks we get the title fight. We'll dig into it more
Mm.
then.
Okay.